Got you in 3, 2, 1.
What's poppin', ladies and gentlemen? Hey, check it out. It's your man, your host, Christian Mosley, coming back at you with another episode of Berean Talk because, ladies and gentlemen, we do need to talk. I am back in the studio once again with none other than the OG, Mr. Vic Frost, in the building.
You gotta stand up.
You feel me? You feel me? We back at it like crack addicts. You know what I'm saying? So listen. I got a special treat for y'all because I told you. I said, listen, let me fix my jacket for this one. I told y'all, I said, listen, Berean Talk is gonna be one of them spaces where it's not just gonna be me. It's gonna be me bringing people in of a high caliber to have some high caliber conversations. Because that's what we need in order to just disseminate the truth. Because as you all know, I don't like just talking. A lot of this work, a lot of what I say on this show, it translates into the streets. It translates into work some way or another, or it's coming from people that are doing the work. So I thought to myself, I said, I know a good brother. I said we was having good conversations. We was chopping it up. We ain't even known each other that long, but it's like he my cousin I ain't met on my daddy's side. You know what I'm saying?
Thanks.
So I had to hit up the good brother. I said, hey, bro, I got to get you on the show. We got to have a conversation. We've been having some high level political, even spiritual conversations too. So ladies and gentlemen, give it up for none other than the good brother, Mr. Reggie Nesbit in the building, dog.
Bruh, appreciate you, man. I appreciate you having me on here, man.
What's poppin', bro?
Like you said, man, like you be giving it up, man. I'm like, dang, he shouted out the whole producer and this. But
what
look,
we gotta do?
Look, man, I appreciate you guys having me up here, man.
Yes, sir.
We have, like you said, we have great conversations just every time, just on the phone.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like, man, we said this all the time. I'm like, man, we got to come up and basically show up for each other.
Yep.
Like you said, pull up. I said, say less.
Yeah.
Christmas time, shoot, I'll come up right now, man. This ain't nothing but a word, man. But I'm glad to be up here, man. Let's get into it, man.
So you already know what's going down, man. What we are here for, ladies and gentlemen, is we are here for the Autopsy, the Gen Z edition. You know what I'm saying? Of this recently passed, very sensational presidential election. Now, by the time you all see this, it might be closer to Inauguration Day. It might be a little bit after. But I think hindsight is 20/20 when it comes to things like this. And I even think there was a lot of people that had really great analysis. There's also people we realize are idiots that we don't need to be listening to no more. I'm just being honest. I'm so serious. Right. It's just it was a lot of fools that had platforms that shouldn't have had them, that unfortunately had influence. And when it comes to especially the show that we're talking about, specifically a lot of what we were talking about was how it related to our people as being ADOS. And so being ADOS in America and what that entails. So let me ask you a question, Reggie, before we really start getting into the meat and potatoes of it.
Sure.
The results of the presidential election and even some of your state elections, were you surprised by the results?
Man, that's a loaded answer, Christian, and I'm gonna try to give you the Spark Notes version of it.
Okay.
But basically, like this, I felt like this election for me was like the most important because it really would either confirm my like assumptions about the state of America, or it would be like, oh, like there's actually something that I didn't think of. But unfortunately, from what happened, I can't say that I was super, super surprised. And, I feel like the election didn't reflect my opinion on the state of America.
Really?
Newsflash. I don't think it really reflected a state of like opinions of a lot of people, especially ADOS.
Yeah.
And like the fact of the matter is, the first time I could vote was 2020.
Right.
But the first time I was aware of like the general election and really was like informed about it was 2016. Right?
Okay.
And I was like 16. We were like in high school, right?
Yeah.
We couldn't vote, but I had like geography class and like history class, and we were like talking about it every class period.
Right.
And I was just under the impression that the world was just a leaning liberal type of agenda as a country. You know what I mean? So
really?
I'm like, okay, we have all of this like people fighting for, equity and equality of different, these different like pockets of groups of people that want equality. And, around that time, that's when gay marriage was legalized. All these things that are happening. And I was like, okay, that means the world, and Obama was president, that means the world is leaning, right, which is,
I'm sorry.
This is my thinking, this is a 16-year-old, 16-year-old.
We give him grace, a 16-year-old.
Right, thinking that the world is what's on the paper. Right. So, I'm saying, okay, everything's pointing to where everybody's going to be blue one day of the world. And so I'm assuming Hillary Clinton's going to win. Woo. When that election came back to say what it said, it just kind of had me started churning my wheels thinking that the world is not what we see. And it's, honestly, it blew my head up because it's actually worse than I even thought it could be. Especially since 2020 happened where Biden came up and, people were like, we have to vote this guy out of office.
Shout out to Jim Crow Joe.
And then we see the past 4 years from that, from what he's came in and done. And then really this 2024 election, I was like, you know what? My assumption is that America is going to do what America does. And that's basically, to make lack of a better term, put more spices that don't need to be in the pot, throw them all in the pot and make a disgusting gumbo that I would never eat. And I love gumbo. Gumbo's like my favorite gumbo.
I would never put nothing in my gumbo. That's an abomination.
But I mean, just to make it short, Christian, man, it's just like, it wasn't surprising, man. It's just like, it was kind of discouraging, but it was a discouraging feeling that I felt coming, you know what I mean?
Right.
And as a young person, African-American person, like starting to learn the justice system and learn the political system and wanting it to work in our benefit.
Right.
I mean, that kind of leaves me with like a lot of just, okay, I mean, should I even trust the things that I'm being taught, or like, should I trust my parents' intuition of your right to vote is important, you have to vote. And of course, I'm like, that's all true, but sometimes we can do everything right? And the outcome will still be not in our favor. Right. And we feel like this political system is like just rigged against us. I don't know. What do you think? I really want to know what you think about just like that election and what your surprises is and how that came off to you.
I'm going to be honest. Like, I was not surprised at all. At all. And I'm going to tell you why, though. Because I will say I grew up as like an anomaly / aberration. So I was in rooms growing up that most of our people weren't. So a lot of this behavior. So like, for example, like when people saw Project 2025, I talked about this on the first episode of the season. When people saw Project 2025, most people saw it. They were freaking out. It was very radical. It was weird. I was trying to figure out why everybody was freaking out, because I was like, no, I'm so serious. Because so when you grow up, you're homeschooled in Fayetteville, North Carolina, right? Formerly Fort Bragg, now Fort Liberty. Right. You got super patriotism out here, right? You have one of the strongholds of the Confederacy here, right? You got, just a couple of years ago, we had the slave market house as the emblem for our city. That was our city logo up until the performative politics kicked in.
No, that's 100%. I'm glad you said it.
I've said that it might be on archives somewhere. I said at city council, like, we blew a couple million on changing images on trash cans that could have gone to the people that y'all was talking about. That's another conversation. So to answer your question, no, I wasn't surprised at all. And I'll tell you also too, because when you grow up in those spaces, it's super ultra conservative. Just because you grow up in an echo chamber, like you said, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's how the world works. But what I came to understand was like that phenomenon of what they call like the silent majority. That's a very real thing. It is a very real thing. It is a very real thing also too. We'll even get into like the numbers of like what the voter turnout actually looked like even in this election. Especially because, as you know, not only just looking at media, but even personally, black men were scapegoated during this election. And people want to so bad say we were the reason that Vice President Dolezal did not win. And
I had to stop you real quick. I just had to stop you.
I'm sorry.
No, because you're 100% right. And I wanted to preface this by saying
I'm not sorry. I lied.
No, okay, cool. We'll take it as it is. So you're from Fayetteville. I'm from Columbia. I didn't say that at the beginning. So I'm from Columbia, South Carolina, the capital city of South Carolina. You said something about how basically everybody had performative politics around 2020, basically as a result of all the things going on. And same thing happened in Fayetteville. It's the same thing happening in Columbia. So I resonate. I'm like, they took down the Confederate flag that was at the State House for so long during 2020. And I'm just like, wait, we couldn't have done that any different time of the history of the state? But of course not. And that's why when you said that performative word, it's just like a lot of things in 2020 was performative. Maybe even the election of having Biden just getting in office was performative. Yeah. But this election right here really showed the true opinions, like silent majority, the true opinions of people. Right. And I also wanted to say before you got into it, I do have my family is like completely like women driven, black women driven. Like, you know, I have 3 aunts and no uncles on my mom's side. Okay. And, you know, I have a sister. I don't have a brother. And, you know, it's just like, these are strong women in my life. Matriarchs. And, you know what I mean? And it's like, you know, I try to, when I have these opinions that I'm very like similar to you on, I try not to let it seem like to them that I'm trying to belittle what they believe. Right, of course, like that. Of course. But it's that what you just said about how it feels like, you know, as a black man, we're seen to be like already like given like our opinion and we never gave it. Right. Or people already assume what we're going to say and we never say it. So I just think when you're about to say about just basically how we feel about the election, I think it's a big disconnect to where maybe black women think we feel or however, whatever demographic it might be. And I'm personally doing everything I can to represent ADOS in general. I'm not trying to separate and like, you know what I mean, and push away people within our own race, you know what I mean, or our own culture, which we'll get into, African American culture. But yes, but like you're saying, yes, the political turnout, I feel like was very important because I was like, at first, when I didn't know, I just assumed that, oh God, like, did we mess up or did someone else mess up or who messed up or why are we assuming that, you know, we're voting for this person or that person? Whatever. Right. I'm gonna let you go.
No, yeah, no, yes. That was the segue I wanted to get into was really just dealing with number one, what I wanted to lead up with too before I even get into the voter turnout was just some of the campaigning and the things that I was seeing over the campaign season that were highly, highly, highly disturbing on both sides of the aisle because I don't care for either one. And like you, I also pulled up for the good doctor on election day. So shout out to Dr. West if he ever sees this. Yes. But so of course for me, I didn't care for either side as far as the partisanship is concerned. But what I will say is watching the marketing and the campaign that was being done and seeing how both sides really viewed us as a people. And it was so interesting to see because oftentimes there was very much a bully-like approach that the Democrats had. It was just, you don't have a choice. You're a Negro. This is what you gonna do. What other choice do you have? You gonna vote for Trump? So oftentimes it was that. It was very much a condescending way that they went about speaking to us, talking about us. And then oftentimes at the expense of even trying to delineate us from our women. So then it became trying to it became about oftentimes white women trying to recruit black women into their idea of what they believe was feminism to turn around to us and say that we were the problem when the numbers didn't even reflect that it's us. It also does not reflect anywhere in the numbers that white women have ever been in solidarity with us. There are plenty of, I highly, highly, highly. Let me make sure I get the author right because it's just brought up something. Because when I talk on this show, when me and Reggie be talking, we don't just talk. I give real resources for the stuff. I want you to go and check and see if I'm lying, right? That's why we called it Berean Talk. Acts 17:11. Go and look at it. The reason they were set apart is because they went back after the preacher preached, after Paul, Apostle Paul, word to Saul. He was preaching the good word, actually saw Jesus, and these people had enough integrity to say, I need to check it for myself. So even with my politics, that's what we try to do. So when it comes to things like this, there's a book. I want everybody to go and check it out. I'll make sure I'll have a link to it, maybe on Audible or something like that in the description. It's called They Were Her Property by Stephanie E. Jones Rogers. This is one of those books that gives you really an idea of where this idea of white feminism comes from. Because contrary to popular belief, white women owned a lot of slaves. Fayetteville was one of the few cities that is even mentioned in this book that loved women's rights so much that there were whole days dedicated at the slave market just for women. Fun fact.
Insane.
Shout out to Fayetteville for you being forward thinking. So when I go back to thinking about what was happening during the campaign, often what it seemed like what was happening was, which was weird, during a time of economic crisis just for everybody, abortion became a very big thing for the Democratic Party. And even to an extent, statistically, everybody doesn't need access to that service. 100%. Whether or not you agree with abortion as a moral issue is inconsequential to the conversation we're having right now.
100%.
That part doesn't really matter, because what a lot of times people don't talk about too is the violation of ADOS women specifically, their reproductive rights outside of abortion. The mortality rates are abnormally high across racial lines. We're not talking about black and brown. This is ADOS women. It's worse than Latinos. It's worse than immigrants. It's worse than white folks. It's worse than, and I have personal experience with this that I'll probably get into in another episode. But the condescending nature that the condescending nature that the Democratic Party took towards the black community, as if we didn't have another choice, for the disrespect that we were given, to be told to our faces. We were kind of gaslit during the election too. We were told that Trump was a fascist, right? That's what everybody said, right? You remember that?
100%.
Everybody kept saying Trump's a fascist. All right, cool. But the people that were saying it was a woman that was selected, not elected. She was selected with no Democratic primary, didn't come out with an agenda until basically weeks before the election day. All she had was a website with donation buttons and a very mediocre sophomoric about page. That was it. So we had to choose between Project 2025 or diet version. Because let's not, yes, I know that Trump, technically he disavowed Project 2025 and it's not his. But here's the thing. Most of this is conservative ideology. And if you look at the cabinet picks, especially right now, we're about to enter into a pseudo Christian nationalist regime.
100%. And that's the pot trying to call the kettle black with the whole how Kamala just came in and basically pushed the same agenda, but with like rose-colored glasses. Yep. And I mean, honestly, the part that you mentioned about how white women were kind of trying to condition how black women or ADOS women like kind of spoke and how they thought about it.
Yep.
By like denounce, you know what I mean? Like basically saying, no, we're not that bad. Look what he's doing. Look what he's doing to women's rights, to abortion rights, and drawing that point home, but forgetting every other thing about any issue that's like related to any part of Trump's other agendas or Kamala's other agendas, and kind of focusing on that. It kind of made it feel like fear mongering or something like that. They said it in a way to get them riled up for them to vote against Trump just for that one issue.
And ironically, in a lot of ways, voting against our own interests, because a lot of us, we knew, and I think this was one of those things that I thought was interesting, because although there was a change, so which is funny, Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris, got lower numbers than Hillary Clinton. she was a very unliked candidate across the board amongst black folks, amongst white folks, amongst Latino. There were a lot of people that did not like when they were running the first time in 2020 during the primary. She did not get one delegate vote. Nobody wanted her. When you ask people that were out in California about what she was doing with the truancy laws, and shout out to Miss Sheree Peoples, who is currently fighting for justice for what's happened with her and her family. And guys, definitely go out and go and look up that name, Miss Sheree Peoples, and her story, and the interview that Mr. Antonio Moore, shout out to the OG, did with her, talking about the havoc that these prosecutors cause in our communities, and the things that normally that they do is what I like to call the ADOS experience, what we call the doormat effect. What do I mean by that?
Yeah, break that down.
The doormat effect is, now, like you said, you grew up in a loving household. You know, when you would walk in your parents' house, what's the first thing they tell you to do?
Take off your shoes.
Take off your shoes, right? Sometimes you might even wipe them off on the doormat first, right? So oftentimes when you come to America, you can't come in here with all of that stuff. Facts. You can't come in here with all of that, whatever you had in Syria or whatever you had in Lebanon or whatever you had in Africa. Maybe tame it down a little bit. We appreciate multiculturalism, but to a certain extent. But you got to learn how to, because America is a cold-blooded place. You got to be a dog to survive here.
100%.
You got to sharpen your teeth and sharpen your claws. But you're not going to do it with us. Go do it on the doormat. And who's the doormat? ADOS. So when you want to learn how to engage in capitalism in the American context, where do you go? You go to the hood. You go set up a store and you learn how to exploit there. And then you go into white America. When you want to learn how to build yourself up in politics, what do? You become an immigrant, you go into these black districts, you knock them around a little bit, yes, and then you earn a name for yourself. And you keep doing it over and over. Miss Kamala Harris is Jamaican and Hindu, who was raised in Canada.
Wow. Okay.
Was raised in Canada as an elite. Her parents were professors, or one was a professor and one was a doctor, I believe. She does not have a normal upbringing with her, I grew up in a middle class family. I'm so sick of hearing that. And because of that, we couldn't understand what it was that we were looking at. This was the woman that was locking up black men for weed and then goes on a radio show to joke about smoking weed. This was the woman that when we asked for a black agenda, we did not get one. And then when we finally got one, we get this anemic response for a 500-word essay. Wasn't even that. And all it said was, hey, black people, check this out. Since y'all don't want to really pull up. 20 bands in weed. What y'all think? Then turned around and did copy and paste with the agenda for Latinos, but then emphasized, no. For y'all, you need this for your families. As if black men don't care about taking care of their families. Because it's not like we didn't see that. And Trump, their campaign was just like, listen, man, we're going to cut regulations. We're going to try and make it, going to try and get you some extra bread. We are not doing nothing special to repair you. We are not doing nothing special to handle none of that. As a matter of fact, we are going to even try to take black history out of the schools. We believe in talking about anything that's going to hurt these white children's feelings because it's going to mess the money up. Because unfortunately, because we are created in God's image, if you find out about something unjust, it's going to bother you.
Man. The thing about Kamala, for me, and I get so much because I'm a type of person that doesn't really hinder my opinion. I kind of speak truth to power, whatever you want to call it. I don't really hold back, and of course, my opinion might not be the consensus or anything like that. And I try to explain to people why I didn't vote for Kamala or Trump,
right? And
I try to just give them this basics, just idea that if we're supposed to vote for the person that represents us the most and our self-interest and anything like that, I cannot look at Trump, first of all, and say that he represents anything that I believe in, right? But I can't turn around and look at Kamala and basically say that she does represent what I'm believing in just because she has a skin tone that's closer to mine. And the fact of the matter is, it felt like, at least in my family, that was enough to get their vote. And that's what kind of threw me for a loop, because I don't believe that we are we should be like pandered to, and we should be able to just like vote for somebody based off of what they look like.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's all coming back to where 2008 happened, and I'm like, okay, I'm like, now I see.
Yeah.
But that guy's name was Barack, and this one's name is Kamala, and this one, the black guy didn't at least said he was mixed, but he seemed more blacker than this one. So I'm trying to see why they, why my family, why people around me kind of said that this is the same thing as 08.
Yeah.
Which I heard a lot. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to just be like groupthink into believing this one thing just because she has some skin that's similar to mine. Because everything else I don't agree with. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's really my basics of like why I didn't vote for her. On top of everything else,
right.
I just can't vote for somebody. That's like me doing a disservice to my own heart. I can't vote for somebody that doesn't have at least majority of my self-interest at heart. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And you kind of hit the nail on the head where she's only doing, she's doing, personally, I think she's doing the DRC's bidding and basically doing anything that the Democratic Party wants her to do. Because I somehow think within the depths of her soul that she doesn't truthfully believe what she's putting out. And I really think it's a team or it's a machine behind her or PAC or whatever it be behind her that's kind of pushing her to do this. Because I want the best, you know what I mean? I'm like, dang, like she can't be this clueless, or like she can't just say these things and not think about her own upbringing, her own like fall from grace or whatever you call it. Because really, like, I mean, I'm not the biggest Kamala supporter, if a supporter at all. And I think I get a lot of flack for that, being that I'm an ADOS person, and everybody else is just like, come on now, come on.
I mean, honest. So, I think so. Here's the problem that I had, because even let's just deal with the hard numbers of why you're telling me that you are a lazy person if you're blaming black people for the election results as it pertains to Trump getting in office. And the reason I say that is because if you just look at what the turnout was, it was 153 million voters. Black males, there were 7.5 million total black voters. And out of this 7.5 million, 1.5 million voted for Trump. Just 1.5. On the other hand, white women, not even white people, white women, the so-called oppressed group here in the United States, 56.6 million white women voted. Out of those 56.6, 31 million voted for Donald J. Trump.
Come on.
So the conversations now that we should be having is, are white women misogynists? Are white women racist? Matter of fact, let's do another little deep dive. Let's look at the percentages, because the percentages of who showed up for who is astonishing to me. Black men showed up at a 77%, or actually it was more than that, at a basically 80% rate for Kamala Harris. Black women showed up about 92, but white women only showed up 46. So the amount of numbers that it takes is just astronomically higher. You couldn't do it. We showed up for Kamala Harris in droves, in spite of the fact that, and here's the other thing too, because you cannot act like this variable did not exist. The way that mass incarceration affected black men is a very real thing. So when you have somebody that has built their career off of being an intricate part of that, even on the state level, what you can't do is, that's like I'm not going to vote for somebody that's running around with a Klan hood. Even if you tell me that you're going to do something that might be nice for my family, even though it's not. No. But let's just say you do, and you wearing a Klan hood, I'm like, I got experience with the group that's associated with that, and there's nothing good that comes from being attached to that. So I'm going to go over here. But then the thing is, she actually had a record. She actually had a political record we could go back to and even take a look at as well. And one thing I wanted to deal with too was because there was this delusion as well. Because what my biggest thing was, she did not have a black agenda. There were agendas and different things being put together for a lot of different groups of people. They were coming to different special interest groups to find out what agendas they needed. Trump went to these groups. Kamala went to the groups. But the way that we were interacting with the candidates and the way that the candidates were interacting with us suggested a lot of times, number one, we had the wrong people in the room. Why was Meg Thee Stallion?
I was about to say that.
Why was Glorilla? Why was Quavo speaking at the? Why was Beyonce? We didn't need that.
Pander.
And what's worse about the pandering is it's not that they're just pulling those people and saying, because both sides pull celebrities. But what Democrats have done is, this is who we pull when we want to talk to somebody from the black community.
Exactly.
So they're not pulling an Yvette Carnell or an Antonio Moore. They're not pulling some of the folks that are doing good work locally in your city, in your state. They are pulling the tap dancers from either side to come on and continue the carpet bagging show that is the United States political system, outside of the folks that stand up and speak truth to power, and then they get run out. Shout out to folks like Miss Senator Nina Turner and others that, are not able to or have had institutions weaponized against them, and they're not able to get in there and do the good work. So one of the other things I want to talk about too is the phenomenon, and I don't know, do you have any folks in your family or that you know that are Trump supporters or Trump voters? Because I want to get into a very interesting phenomenon.
I guess yes and no. I feel like I have family members who definitely voted for Trump.
Yeah.
But they're not going to publicize that or kind of speak on that. But I kind of got the idea when they say, I'm voting for whoever's going to help the economy better. And then they say that, saying also, and Biden put us in the worst place ever. So I'm just thinking in my head, I'm like, and that's why I wanted to ask you about, do you think Biden played a role into this election result and how kind of she's basically just carrying on his campaign, but trying to make it hers. But basically, I think the people in my family that voted for Trump, they definitely kept out in the hush hush.
Right.
Of course. But in the same instance, they were very not affected by the results as opposed to everybody else in my family.
Yeah.
They're just not affected. But yes, I do have those Trump ADOS.
I mean, I get it, because so we as a people, just as ADOS, we are morally conservative. Even if we vote along Democratic lines, a lot of us have very conservative values.
100%.
But we don't act in the same way as as a Christian nationalist or as an imperialist or imperialist light. So that's one of the things that a lot of people don't understand about our community is that, no, we have very strong convictions about certain things. However, the way that we go about doing certain things or even forcing them on other people is very different. But to your point, as far as answering that question about the phenomenon and how that occurs, oftentimes what I see that too is that we have a bad tendency of radicalizing our free thinkers, and then they go and perform revenge politics. So that's how you end up with somebody like a Candace Owens, who initially she grows up somebody that's super democratic, somebody that's super liberal. Then she gets to asking some questions. She gets around some folks that give her some actually true information and talk about maybe the early Republicans. What happens is when you don't get that regulated with just objective history, then you get somebody like a Charlie Kirk or a PragerU that takes you under their wing and radicalizes you into some other stuff. And then here's the problem. All the while you're believing in things that might be conservative, being a free thinker, your own people, it might be your family and all that, they're calling you a coon and an Uncle Tom and everything else. So you get alienated by your family. And when you're told that it's for the sake of truth, now you got a martyr's complex. So now that you got this martyr's complex, you have people that were black, far right-wing conservatives that think that they are holding up some sort of banner of justice and freedom and free speech and all these other things, and do not realize that you put yourself on a plantation that maybe one plantation, the masters don't beat you as much. The overseers do it. So the masters don't actually have to say that they beat you. That's a real practice in slavery, by the way. Y'all should study slave history. Then there's the other plantation where the master actually kind of takes pleasure in beating you down. There's a reason Daniel Penny was up in the skybox with President-elect Donald Trump and Vice President-elect J.D. Vance. There's a reason for that. Now, Kamala may not do that, but she'll definitely make sure Daniel Penny gets out of jail. That dude, either way, it doesn't end up well for them. I did want to say this too real quick, because a lot of folks, and I've been talking to, unfortunately, a lot of Negroes that don't read. And
to put it lightly,
no, I'm so serious because we don't understand where we are as a people in this country. Because if you don't understand basic things like the racial wealth gap, if you don't understand that, if you think that white America, with all 130 to 134 trillion dollars in wealth that they have, if you with your 7 think that you're gonna compete with 134. You are playing yourself. And if you also don't know that 7 trillion, 60% of it is calcified with baby boomers because it's in pensions, and it's going to disappear in a matter of a couple of decades or less, you're screwed. So then what happens with that, right? Because you have no wealth. Oftentimes the way that our families survive is through government programs. Right. Not just food stamps though, because that's what everybody thinks about. Food stamps and Section 8. It's more than food stamps and Section 8. Interestingly enough, we have 2 billionaires that have just been elected to head up Doge and to cut all of this federal spending. And I saw this very interesting article by CBS. Now, normally I don't use them as a primary resource for anything, but I had seen this in a few different places and heard both Mr. Ramaswamy and Mr. Musk both talking about what they plan to cut and what they plan to do. And interestingly enough, what was disturbing to me was this had ADOS written all over it. Y'all want to know about some of the things that they might end up cutting or they're thinking about cutting? Because these are a list of programs with expired funding in 2024, which means in 2025, they're up for renegotiation of who's going to get what and who's going to get less of that. Let's see. Veterans healthcare. And these are in the billions of dollars. That's $119 billion that goes towards that. I think we might need some of that. Let's see here. Opioid treatment and drug development. State Department foreign affairs programs. Might be able to cut that a little bit. Let's see. Housing assistance, $37 billion. Justice Department and domestic violence, $35 billion. Education Department, K through 12 funding. Healthcare and student loan programs. Head Start. Workforce development. You know, when all those conservatives tell you that you just need an opportunity and some education, and maybe you grew up in an area that was deprived of wealth and opportunities. 100. So then you want to learn, how do you engage with the workforce? How do you do a job interview? How do you build a resume? Yeah, you know those programs that you should be able to have access to. Mm-mm. So when that gets cut because you want to do it yourself,
come on.
Government isn't about lazy people. Maybe you guys should go ahead. Here's another book suggestion. Go check it out. Read about when affirmative action was white. Then you will understand the making of America. There is no America. There is no middle class if the government does not subsidize and lift up these so-called great Americans, the greatest generation. Y'all don't want to talk about the GI Bill. Y'all don't want to talk about the Homestead Act. Y'all don't want to talk about those. But then when Negroes need it because you stole everything, then it's called a handout. Let's continue with the programs. We also got state housing grants. Helping Families Save Their Home Act, and other spending, including water, infrastructure, and healthcare. Newsflash, folks, Flint doesn't have clean water yet. Now, your boy Obama went up there and took a sip of the water to act like,
my God.
Can we talk about the national gaslighting that caused? But because he was brown and he dapped up LeBron a couple of times. But y'all don't want to talk about him bailing out all the banks for all the predatory lending that they were doing to Adolf's families and all the foreclosures and everything else, and him giving reparations to Guam and him giving reparations to Jews, but y'all don't have no smoke for him because his wife was pretty. Because the daughters were cute. Y'all don't have smoke for him because, oh, we want Obama back. I'm not going to say who, because I will speak to them face to face, because I don't say nothing behind nobody's back. I'm not going to say it to their face. But I will say this. There is some legislators, even on the state level, that I know that have said out of their own mouths and on posts and everything else, oh my God, I wish Obama was back. I wish. Now, unless you're not educated on who the Obamas were and what he did during his presidency and how much he sold out our people and used us to elevate himself for his own self-aggrandizement, then I'd like to believe that you might be a carpetbagger as well. I'm so sorry. So with that being said too, another thing, like with all of those things that are being cut, we as a people like oftentimes need those things. I know for me personally, I got folks in my family that are actually living pretty decent lives. They live pretty good, middle class, maybe a little bit upper middle class. Those same people might even vote for a Donald Trump and say, and look at the people on Section 8.
Yeah.
And look at the people that need WIC and look at the people that need food stamps and say, stop feeding off the government. Stop doing all those things. You need to just pull yourself up by the bootstraps and doing it yourself. But wait, you don't remember. You were in the military. You don't remember. You received an inheritance from a parent that was in the military. That's the only way they built wealth. You forgot that you have a job with the state. Right. You have a job with the city. Right. You got jobs that contract with the government. That's the only way you make your bonuses sometimes. Right. So when you put those things together, when you put together like different things like, hey, there are a lot of us that would have never bought a house if there wasn't such thing as an FHA loan or a FHA program. That's a government thing. So when you cut those things off, what a lot of us are going to realize is we're going to be outside cold with no coats. Exactly. And then you're going to be wondering why you don't have a coat and you're not being told that somebody was supposed to give you one. And everybody walking around with a little North Face jacket and everything else. It's an inherited North Face jacket, but they're not going to tell you that. Because right now America's in a place where we're living off of inheritance. We are about to experience the greatest wealth transfer in the history of the United States. All of the wealth from the boomers and from the silent generation is about to get passed on to X and the millennials and Z. If you don't know what that means you about to have 20, 30, and 40-year-old white folks out here with $500,000 on a regular. These insurance policies are about to go crazy. These houses are getting passed down right now. Yep. There are houses that were worth $80,000, $100,000, $200,000. These joints are worth more than $500,000 now. Double. Worth $250,000 now. Worth $1 million, a couple million now. They're not going to you. You know why? Because when they were buying those houses, there was legislation in place that said no one who is a Negro or of Negro descent can occupy or have ownership of said property outside of the mode of servitude. Come on. You know what I just quoted? That's a racial covenant from the state of North Carolina here in the city of Fayetteville. Come on. Shout out to District 5.
Come on. So my dad is 40 years older than me. So he's two generations removed from where I am right now. Okay. And the biggest thing that we have a whole disconnect on is me having him understand the state of the world that I'm living through when he was my age is totally different.
Okay, talk about that.
Oh my God. So basically, he was in the military. So after he graduated, so he's from Georgetown, South Carolina. Which is in the Low Country area, kind of closer to Fayetteville than Columbia. But he's from Georgetown. He graduated high school. He went straight to the military. He had two older brothers. They went to the military. He would follow suit. Yep. He had no idea, he had no thoughts of higher education or anything like that, or any thought at all, but going to the military because that's what he's seen. He goes to the military. He does 12 years. He doesn't do the full 20 because, as he told me, he had to get the heck on out of there, for lack of a better term. Right. He had to get the heck on out of there.
No, we grown. You can say him.
Yeah,
He probably had to get the hell out of it.
You know, I don't know if it's a family show.
No, you good.
It sounds like you watching it. I don't know one day. But he had to get on. So basically, what happened was, this was around the 90s where he kind of got out of the military. And, you know, he had money in his pocket.
Right.
And he could have done a lot of different things. He meets my mom around 93. They have my sister in 96 and they have me in 99.
Right.
And basically since then he's just been working. He worked at UPS and he worked at ADT Security doing security. He worked 2 jobs for the majority of my like adolescence until I was like 13. He was working 2 jobs. And then he dropped to 1 job. He works at 1 job till this day. I'll go in the house and I'll see him getting back after me. So, you know, I work, we have the same similar job. And I work and then I come home.
Yep.
He's coming home 2 hours later than me. And I'm like, this is a 65-year-old man in December 31st.
Wow.
65. This is a 65-year-old man working for 40 plus years on end. And I'm asking him, I'm telling him, I'm like, why don't you just retire? So I grew up in an environment, and I don't know if you're similar. I grew up in an environment where I've been around a bunch of different types of people.
Right.
A lot of white people on one end.
Yep.
But I grew up where I live is predominantly black.
Okay.
All the white people I knew from like high school and stuff like that, their parents retired, 61 years old, 62 years old, chilling, all this stuff. They're just waiting for their inheritances to trickle down to them at this point. And I'm sitting here watching my dad work.
Yep.
Work 2 jobs all the way up till I'm 13 and working a job till this day.
Right.
And I'm just like, and I'm trying to tell him, he's telling me the secret. He's like, I got the secret sauce for you of how you'll be fine, blah, blah, blah in life. The job you have right now, work it for 30 more years. You're going to be set. Your pension is going to be yours. All this stuff, blah, 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 blah. Oh my Trust me, you're just stacking money. And when you're my age, blah, 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 don't worry. This house is going to be yours. And I'm like, so when I'm 63 years old and you'll be long gone, the house that you're working your total ass off to provide, to just keep up. I thought it was a 30-year mortgage. He refinancing the mortgages just to make it, make the money stretch. And I'm just like, that can't be a sense of anything that I think an American dream should be. Right. Especially with he's saying this, me knowing all of the people I grew up with are getting like 500K homes, like just handed to them. The deed is in their hands. And I'm just like, okay.
Didn't work a day for it.
Big disconnect, man.
But I think you made a really good point. I think it's a really good point to leave off of, because this was the biggest thing with what we needed from a Black Agenda's perspective, this election, which was we needed, number one, the biggest thing for me is reparations, point blank, period. Not because it is a punishment for white people, not because I think I'm owed something because something bad happened. It is a debt that is owed. When you are born in the United States, you are paying debt as soon as you pay taxes on stuff that happened before the Civil War. We still have debt from the Civil War, from World War I, II, Korean War, Vietnam, and everything else. Not an immigrant, not a white person complains about their taxes going towards paying that debt. But when it's time to go towards the people that built the richest, most powerful nation in the world, mind you, I want to make something very clear. And you guys know, you can check any of the videos I've done. I've showed some of the values behind this stuff, and we'll get even more in tune to it. America would not be a better place without slavery. America would not be a better place without racism. It wouldn't exist. That's the problem.
True.
We're the reasons that America exists. It was a black man that designed Washington, D.C. Word to Benjamin Banneker. It was black people that really came up with the cotton gin because white people wasn't trying to figure out a way to make it easier for us. We come up with all of these different things and have our intellectual property stolen from us. We had 10 to 15 million acres of land stolen from the end of Reconstruction all the way up until the 1970s. 90% of that was lost before the 80s. So when we talk about what we need back, This is why. What you were talking about is exactly why we need, because we don't have an inheritance. We're entering into a world where an inheritance is required and it's normal. I've had people that have literally said to my face, even some people that were saying to my face, I don't have any generational wealth. But then a few moments later, they talking about land they got in the family, or they got a job that they were able to get access to because of a parent, or they were able to get non-depreciating assets that they can pass down and use in order to either liquidate and start a new life or whatever they got to do. But the reason I say that is, why don't you have that inheritance? Like you said, your dad is about to be 65. Happy birthday to the OG.
Facts.
But because of that, right, that man was born during a time where he wasn't even born with all of his rights yet. So let's stop there first.
Born in 59.
59. The Civil Rights Act ain't passed till 65. No real repair. And he's in the military. So what in the world he got to keep refinancing and everything else for if you should have access to a good VA loan with almost 0% interest?
Come on.
So I say all that to say, like, the reason myself, my man Reggie, and many others, why we talk about reparations the way we do, it's not because it's a nice thing to happen. It's the only way we're going to survive or we're going to die out.
It's not like asking for a handout. I think
it's not.
I don't know how many people I talk to about it, and they say, so you just want something for nothing? I'm like, nothing. You guys had a 400-year head start. And there's nothing to make up for that. I think a lot of people, and I want you to get into this, because I know you have it already. I think a lot of people think reparations is just like a lump sum of cash, and we'll zip our lips and we'll go away. Please explain to them, because I know. Yeah. Please explain to them why that's not the case and why reparations is more important than just getting some sort of monetary compensation for 400 years.
So I think, and I'll leave it on this. And if you guys want to know, especially where I come up, like with how I feel about reparations, all that, definitely go to the ADOSadvocacyfoundation.org. Go to the Black Agenda. Go to the Reparations 101 tab. Go to the Reparations Agenda. It's a very comprehensive agenda that's been updated this past year. Shout out to the policy director, Ms. Aisha Muhammad, who did a wonderful presentation on that earlier this year. So when it comes to reparations, here's the thing. It's got to be both. It can't be, because a lot of people try to soften it up to, and I know what they're doing. They're trying to protect folks' feelings, like immigrants and white folks, and say, oh no, we don't want cash. We just want to feel better. That's not what we want. We want cash. We want the money on.
Yeah.
We want we want the property. We want everything else. That's what America does. They can put a monetary amount on stuff. So here's the thing. The down payment, we're not talking about all of it. The down payment would be 20 trillion with a T. I say that very confidently because we have many formulas and a lot of history to back up that amount. And quite frankly, 20 trillion is a discount. Number two, reparations is also infrastructure. So a lot of what needs to come along with that money is the infrastructure as far as legislation is concerned, an office of ADOS affairs that would be able to handle housing and healthcare and a lot of different things, to be able to have somewhere to go where we can actually recover all the documents from the harm that we don't even know. We don't know everything. A lot of stuff was hidden from us. We don't know everything that happened to us. And even too, I agree, definitely a lot of things have happened to us for over 400 years, but I say normally when I'm talking to other Americans, I narrow it down because the United States was not a sovereign entity until 1776. So unfortunately, a lot of times I've seen people go into very serious political spaces and say we're owed for 400 years of whatever. You can't hold the United States accountable for what Britain, Portugal, Spain, and a lot of other places did while they were here. Although I'm all for getting that bread too.
To be honest.
But what I can get for 276 years of overt oppression and benign neglect, I can get some bread from that. And we have a winnable case for it. And we have people that are already laying the foundation for us to get involved with that justice fight, regardless of who is in the White House. Because at the end of the day, with our analysis, just as men from the Gen Z generation, as ADOS men, we can talk about all day long what we saw, what we didn't like. But the fact of the matter is, I'm going to put pressure on anybody's neck that's in the seat. Period. That's what real politics is. That's what real political work is. And that's what myself and my brother Reggie,
100%.
That's what we intend to do. So before we head out, my brother, you have any final words for the audience at home?
Hey, man, I just want to say I appreciate you guys for having me on here. Shout out to Columbia. Shout out to the better South Carolina,
Yes,
better
sir.
Carolina. No hate on North Carolina. I got to rep
All
where I'm
right.
from.
All right,
Rep
watch
where
your
I'm- Okay. I'm running 15 seconds of fame running out. Okay, that's cool.
Hey,
But,
shout out to Columbia, man.
Big shout out to my man Christian Mosley.
Yes, sir.
Berean Talk, shout out to Fayetteville, shout out to everybody, man.
2-6,
shout out to
man.
producer out here, man. Keep it going, man. Hopefully I can be back a day soon.
Absolutely. Oh, you already know. You already know what
100%.
it is. So, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you tuning in to the conversation. There's gonna be a whole lot more, and make sure as well. Make sure you follow me on the social medias, on the Facebook and Instagram, as well as Twitter. I've been getting active on there. A lot of great information being shared out there. I host some spaces in case you ever want to chop it up with me and my colleagues. So definitely check that out. But as always, I hope that you were encouraged. I hope that you were challenged, and I hope that you were inspired. And until my next appearance on the interwebs, ladies and gentlemen, fight for your freedom or die talking about it. Peace.